Last week we saw an unspeakable tragedy take place in our nation's capital. Two members of the National Guard from the state of West Virginia were attacked by an Afghan national. He successfully, unfortunately, murdered one and severely wounded the other. In an aftermath to this, President Donald J. Trump announced that he was going to be placing an immediate ban, or a moratorium if you will, on all third world migration into the United States. Now, this is something that I greatly support. This is an idea that I have written about for the outlet Human Events, and that article will be linked below. It is something that I think is necessary. We need an immigration moratorium, and I'm in full support. Here's the reason why. There are over 51.4 million foreigners living in the United States today, both legal and illegal immigrants. Since the passing of the Hart-Celler Act in 1965 and subsequent immigration laws, we have been importing millions of people per year in addition to the ones who have illegally crossed the border. This is completely unsustainable. For one, we don't have enough immigration judges and immigration attorneys to successfully process all of these migrants. According to the U.S. State Department, processing times vary for these migrants but can take as long as 54 months. This is a tremendous strain on the judicial economy of the nation. In addition, when you look at cultural factors, many of these migrants are not assimilating. Less than half of them speak English. Many of them refuse to assimilate to the cultural norms of our country, as we see with the Somali communities in places like Minneapolis or Muslim communities across the nation that are trying to implement Sharia law and calls to prayer in their cities. Many of them do not share our cultural values. Also, they place a huge burden on taxpayers. Illegal immigrants alone in New York City who place their children in schools cost taxpayers billions of dollars annually. That's only illegal. That's not even counting legal immigrants who probably also cost the taxpayers billions more. When you look at the situation of work in the United States, jobs and the economy, millions of people graduate from college each year, but over half of the people in my generation who have graduated from college say that they are skeptical and pessimistic about their prospects of finding a job now that they've graduated. We have companies in this country who claim that they are unable to find talent in the United States and thus have to use things like the H-1B visa to get talent and to get workers from other countries. This is, of course, a bold-faced lie. While our education has been negatively impacted by wokeness and radical Marxist ideology, we still have some of the best colleges in the entire world and some of the most equipped people to do any job imaginable. We are Americans. We can do whatever task you put in front of us. But instead of hiring from the talent pool that does exist in the United States, corporations and big mega companies choose to instead opt to hire cheap foreign labor that they can pay a lesser wage to instead of paying Americans a fair wage, thus giving the corporations and companies more money. This is not about talent deficits. This is all about how much can we make by screwing over regular Americans. President Trump is right to call for an immigration moratorium on third world migration, and I would argue that we should expand the moratorium to all migration, regardless of country, with very few exceptions, for at least the next 2 decades. Immigrants into this country should be expected to assimilate, but instead we are seeing an invasion. As the late, great Charlie Kirk once said, immigration without assimilation is an invasion. That is what we are facing in this country right now. This is not Ellis Island. This is not controlled flow of immigrants into the country. This is not bringing in people who will easily assimilate to our values and actually be a benefit to the nation. This is a combination of invasion from the third world as well as American corporations who care not about the country but only about their bottom line screwing over Americans. It needs to end today. An immigration moratorium is the only answer. It's the only way to ensure that we can put in place safeguards and checks that will make sure that the American citizen is protected and that we actually bring in a small, very small number of people per year who will assimilate to our values, who actually do appreciate the opportunity to be here, and who will be actual benefits to our country. In the 1920s, immigration was capped. There was a quota. It was 2% or less of the 1890 census. That's only a small handful of people compared to the national population at the time. But today, we're bringing in millions and millions and millions. Mass immigration is national suicide. This is unsustainable. Some people may object and say there are other policies that we can put in place that will help stem the flow and that we shouldn't necessarily put in place a moratorium. I mean, it will cost the GDP, won't it? Well, economic analysis actually shows that any GDP growth that comes from bringing in a mass amount of migrants only goes to the migrants themselves, not to the nation, not to you, the American. This is our heritage and this is our home. We should not be sacrificing those things on the basis of GDP, especially when it doesn't actually benefit us in any way. When you have a leaky pipe in your house that has burst, it's flooded the house with water, and you need to fix it, do you let the water keep flowing? Do you try to fix the pipe and run the bathtub at the same time or wash dishes at the kitchen sink? Or do you stop the flow of water first, fix the pipe, identify and fix the problem, and then slowly let the flow continue after those problems have been fixed? Of course, you stop the flow. That's what we need to do with immigration. There have been many great ideas, from remittance taxes to the scrapping of the H-1B program as a whole, that have been floated as an answer to the dangers posed by mass migration. But as long as the flow keeps churning, those fixes will only be temporary. It's going to take us a long time to put these things in place and to get us to a state where we're able to let people in again. A moratorium is the only answer.